All right, so we've done a bunch of vertical and horizontal transformations. Now we're going to get into what you remember to be reflections. So we would say reflection over it's with the x really means the y. So let's actually see if that's the case. So I have f of negative 3, which really means it's f of positive 3. Well, f of positive 3 is 0. F of negative 2 is really positive 2, that's 3. F of negative 1 is positive 1, that's 1. F of 0 is still 0, that's 2. F of negative 1 is negative 1. And f of negative 2 is 1. So I'm going to graph it on the original. Try to get all the erasers. So this is negative 3, 0. So remember it was originally 3, 0, but now it's negative 3, 0, like it's flipping. See how like it's flipping over the y. Negative 2, 3. So negative 2, 3. It was originally 2, 3, but now it's flipped to the other side. F of negative 1 is 1. F 0, 2. See how that stayed the same. 1, negative 1. So this guy's now here. And then 2, 1. So really it's now backwards. I think I'm off. So what the right is really the left, and the left is really the right. So that's literally like almost like I folded it in half, okay? It's reflecting over the y-axis. Now this one seems easier because we have a center point in the center. But if you had it starting here, and let's say it was here, and here, and here, it's not going to be as clear for that to happen, especially when you have other transformations. Okay? But when it's in isolation, it makes sense. Well, it just goes over to here, or it goes over to here. But when you have other transformations, okay? So now let's look here. We have the negative on the outside. It feels like it's with the y, but we know when it's reflection, it really means it's with the x. So here's what I do. I'm going to find f of negative 2. F of negative 2 is 1, but then there's a negative on the outside, so negative 1. F of negative 1 is negative 1, but negative of negative 1 is positive 1. F of 0 is 2, negative 2. F of 1 is 1, negative 1. F of 2 is 3, negative 3. F of 3 is 0, and it stays 0. So let's graph the last one. Okay, a lot of erasers. Left 2, down 1. So now instead of being up here, it's down here. Left 1, up 1. Instead of being down here, it's up here. 0, negative 2. Instead of being up here, it's down here. It's just flipped. So instead of going down, up, it's now going up, down. 1, negative 1. Okay. So it's backwards, right? Instead of going down, it's going up. So that means this one's going to go down. 2, negative 3, and that's what it does. And then 3, 0. Okay, so it's the same thing but flipped. Make sure you're graphing all of them here. So now let's turn the page, and we're going to making some swooping generalizations that we know. We know that when it's with the x, it is not a straight shooter. Do the opposite. Horizontal translation. 2 units really means minus 2. Left. This is really plus. Horizontal translation, 2 units right. So whatever the shape is, it's going to go to the left. It's going to go to the right. Okay? Look at these two. Remember, when it's with the y, it's a straight shooter. Vertical translation. It always starts vertical translation. Vertical translation. 2 units. Units. Up. Down. This one is with the x. But remember, when it's with the x, it's not who he thinks you is. It's not actually what you think it is. So you do the reciprocal. When you flip 2, you get 1/2. When you flip 1/2, you get 2. So if it's really 1/2, by the way, they both start horizontal. But because it's less than 1, it's a compression. So if it's less than 1, it's a compression. And if it's more than 1, it's a stretch. Okay? And I don't know if I should have made that pink or blue. I just should have probably gone to pencil. But keep that in mind. So it's a horizontal compression by a factor of 1/2. And this is, since it's really 2, is a horizontal stretch by a factor of 2. Okay? It's not with the x, which means it's with the y, which means it's a straight shooter. This was a straight shooter, but since it's being added or subtracted, when it's being added or subtracted, it's a translation. But when it's being multiplied, that means it's dealing with scale factor. Okay? So since that 2 is being multiplied, straight shooter, stretch. Straight shooter, compression by a factor of 2 of 1/2. Whenever we have the negative that's being multiplied, this is being subtracted. That means translation, reflection, over. If it's with the x, it really means it's with the y. If it's with the y, it really means it's with the x. Reflection over the y-axis, reflection over the x-axis. Okay? And I don't really care about the bottom. So now make sure that you're doing the right homework. It's Thursday, so we need to have this one done, and we got to figure out what days. I'm sure these, just have all this stuff done by the end of the week. All this needs to be done by the end of the week. Okay?